I'd like to call the March 28th, 2017 school board meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Mr. Connolly.
Here.
Mr. Cater. Here. Segan.
Here.
Ms. Hazard.
Here.
Seeley. Here. Mr. Hirons.
Here.
Mr. McOsker.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Let's move on to our second item, closed session.
Okay. Pursuant to Section 2.23711A of the Code of Virginia, I move that the Stafford County School Board convene a closed meeting to discuss personnel matters pursuant to the personnel exemption at Section 2.23711A1 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are in closed session. All right, we are back from closed session.
Whereas the Stafford County School Board convened a closed meeting on the date pursuant, on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.23712 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended requires certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Stafford County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, can you poll the board, please?
Mr. Connolly.
Aye.
Mr. Cater. Agreed. Segan.
Agreed.
Ms. Hazard.
Agree.
Seeley.
Agree.
Mr. Hirons.
Agreed.
Mr. McOsker. Your motion passed unanimously.
Is there a motion out of closed session?
Madam Chairman, I have a motion. I move to uphold the recommendation of the superintendent as to the reassignment of employee A for the 2017-2018 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are 2 minutes early, but I think we can continue on with our meeting. At this time, I would ask that everyone rise for the invocation and for the presentation of colors by our Air Force JROTC.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
right. Hey. Cradle. Out. Forward. March.
You may be seated. I would like to thank our Air Force JROTC from North Stafford High School with Cadets Fralin, Brookover, Gibson, Lupkin, Cooper Norman, and Trujillo, and Master Sergeant Juan Mendoza for being their sponsor. It's always great to have our students here and participate excuse me, in in our meetings and to show what they are learning in our great JROTC programs. Moving on, we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Madam Chairman, is there an amendment to that to delete number 14 and 15?
Yes, so there will be, so it's been moved and seconded. There's been a request to amend the agenda to remove items, did you say 14 and?
14 and 15, I understand that closed session was taken care of at the beginning of the meeting. No need to meet again.
Amendment accepted?
Yep. Amendment accepted. All right, any further discussion or changes to the agenda? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is approved. Next, we will move on to one of our favorite portions is our awards. I'd like to recognize Mr. Joe Lewis, principal of Stafford High School, for presentation of awards. Come on down.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the school board, Dr. Benson. Would this Stafford High School gymnastics team and coaches please join me in the front? Stafford High School gymnastics worked extremely hard this season, and their hard work has not gone unnoticed. They started the season by taking first place at the Flip for a Cure Invitational. They also took first place at the Winterfest Invitational and the Aloha Invitational. Numerous gymnasts placed individually at these meets. The Stafford gymnastics team won the title for the 2017 Conference 1-5 Championship, as well as the 2017 5A North Region Championship. Jenna Chang is the 2017 Conference 15 All-Around Champion and the 2017 5A North All-Around Runner-Up. For the first time in Stafford High history, the Stafford High School gymnastics team is the 2017 VHSL State Gymnastics Team Champion. The team won each event as well as the team title. Each gymnast contributed in some fashion in this victory to include Cindy Borsheim and Kayla Hubner. Outstanding routines and vaults were performed by Jenna Chang, Journey Dundee, Lainey Krajowski, Sabrina Searles, Caitlin Carrick, Rachel Petto, Leah Morgan, and Rachel Reisenfeld. Each gymnast that competed on beams stayed on the beam, something I could not do in my wildest dreams, which helped clinch the state title and champion. In this morning's Freelance Star, Jenna Chang was selected as All-Area Gymnast, and Coach Sean Thurston was selected Coach of the Year. Congratulations.
Well, congratulations, ladies. That's right, new banner. Next, I would like to recognize Ms. Janice Brunson, Supervisor of Literacy and Humanities, for a presentation of awards.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Benson. I am pleased to present to you the finalists in Stafford County Schools Spelling Bee. These two students competed on March 11th at the 12th Annual Freelance Star Regional Spelling Bee. First, would Danya Flores please come forward? Danya is a 5th grade student at Hampton Oaks Elementary School. She's also participated in the Spelling Bee in the past. Her winning word in the division Spelling Bee was lugubrious, and I will not ask anybody to spell that. She spelled it correctly to break a tie for 2nd place. Please join me in congratulating Danya on her accomplishment. Next, would Ethan Davis please come forward? Again, right there next to Danya. Ethan is an 8th grade student at H.H. Poole Middle School, and he won our division spelling bee by correctly spelling the word scoria. Not sure what that means, but Ethan did it very well. Please join me in congratulating Ethan on his accomplishments. So, do you have the award? Oh. Okay, Danya.
Well, congratulations, great spellers. I am not, so congratulations. Next, we'll be moving on to citizen comment. I will open up, I have some people who have already, I have 2 people already signed in. However, that does, if you have not signed in, you still may, of course, speak to the board this evening. So what I will do is I'm going to issue the invitation and the parameters for public comment. Then I will call up the 2 speakers who have signed up. If you do plan that you would like to speak, feel free to go ahead and stand up at the end of your row or close so you can sign up, so you can follow right along of the other speakers. So speakers shall identify themselves by name, address, and organizational affiliation if the spokesperson represents an organization. Speakers shall also announce the purpose or topic of their comments. 3 minutes will be allotted to speakers. There is the green, yellow, red system. Yellow will come on when you have 1 minute remaining. Red will come on when your 3 minutes have expired, and you get about 5 seconds to wrap up. The chairman reserves the right to restrict the total citizen comment received at any particular meeting to a predetermined maximum number of minutes with the approval of the board. Citizen comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens imminent physical harm shall be ruled out of order by the chair. Although the board provides the opportunity for citizen comment, individuals desiring to register complaints against division employees or division programs, services, or activities may also utilize the procedures outlined in Policy 1113, Public Complaints. So I have Andy Hayes and Mike Mincer. And like I said, if anyone else would like to speak, feel free to sort of start to gravitate toward the front. We'll start with you, Mr. Hayes.
Good evening. Madam Chair, fellow board members, and Dr. Benson. I am representing the Stafford Education Association. I would like to speak about possibly amending the calendar for this school year. I would like to briefly describe that our organization supports that the early outs coming soon on Friday before Easter break and Friday before Memorial Day weekend, that they be amended so that the schools are closed on those days rather than early out. First, it's our experience in the classroom and in the schools that on those days in this community, many students will be absent from school on those days. They're early out already. There are transportation issues throughout the region. Transportation can be dangerous on those days, heavily crowded, and for those reasons, we're also asking a lot of the Transportation Department to fulfill some duties that are some variables that we can't predict. Second, those school days are banked as far as we can count. Teachers, the school workers, the students, they have done their seat time and their work time and their lesson time and their learning time. It doesn't look like the days are going to be used this coming school year by the end of the year. This is different than what we've had. So this is a really a good opportunity. I served on the calendar committee, and we always have trouble deciding where and when, and it's always difficult. And putting those 2 days in was one of the issues that we discussed heavily, how we could do it in a very consolidated school year this year. So lastly, just again, the SEA fully supports if you would amend this year's calendar so that those days, the Friday before Easter and the Friday before Memorial Day, be closed on those days. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. You know we're going to have a blizzard next Sunday now, right?
Bite your tongue.
Good evening. My name is Mike Mincer. I live at 2 Planters Place in Stafford. I'm not here representing anybody at the moment. I was here last Tuesday before you to discuss the high school redistricting, and I'm pleased to see you made some decisions. I wouldn't have your job for anything in the world. There was one comment that was made that I think needs some emphasis, and that was a gentleman who said that there did not appear to be a good planning process, and I have to say that that does appear to be an issue that you all need to consider. Failure to plan was a cause of that problem for the county as a whole, and it's going to occur again if you don't plan, and it's not just you, the school board, it's also the Board of Supervisors, considering the growth that we see in the county. So I think we have, one high school in the pipeline, one new high school coming, and maybe we need more than that. In my own experience, the critical issue isn't the number of classrooms that are available, because you can use trailers, things like that. I myself went to a high school that used trailers, portables we called them. Not great, but didn't hurt me. But the number of teachers and the quality of teachers is critical to keeping up the good education program that we have, and I thank you all for that in this county. I want to thank you again. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Please come on down. As most of you learned, if you didn't sign up ahead of time, you get to sign in on the clipboard right behind you. So, so come on down.
Sorry, a little slow. Hello, Robin Hawkins, Autumn Ridge, 4 Blue Spruce Circle. I've been here quite a few times before. I'm here to lobby tonight your vote for option B, of course, because I'm an Autumn Ridge resident, to keep us in Colonial Forge zone. I know this redistricting process is not easy for anyone involved. It's been very emotional. I want to thank everyone for their hard work, consideration, hearing all my emails, listening to me speak, and all that good stuff. So I just want to thank you all for that. My main goal tonight is to plead, beg, sell my child, no, I'm just joking, to get your vote for the approval of the grandfather and sibling policy. This policy approval will help keep families like mine together. This is very emotional for me. It would help from splitting them between schools. I've spoken to you all in past meetings to express the negative effects splitting the children up will have on the families, choosing between the children and which school function to attend. So I'm hoping for everyone tonight to please vote in favor of that. So I'll take my emotional self and have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Don't forget to sign in. You got it by now. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the board? Come on forward. Come on down. Keep saying it's warm. Remember, we don't want a snowstorm.
It is. Hi, my name is Trish Hance. I'm from 109 Barbara Ann Drive. I live in Arbor Glen. And I've listened to a couple of the meetings, been to a couple of them, haven't spoken yet, but decided tonight's the night because I know you're voting. I kind of wanted you guys to, you need to figure things out on your own for a period of time because there was a lot of choices for you all to make. And I know now you're down to 2. So we have option A, we have option B. With Arbor Glen, with supporting us, I would like you to choose option A. We want to stay at Colonial Forge. It's important for us to keep the schools in line. We go to Winding Creek, we go to Rodney Thompson, we go to Colonial Forge. You take us out of Colonial Forge, our kids lose everybody they've gone to school with. Our kids lose the PTSO that they've known. A lot of us have volunteered from the beginning on the PTSO like you all do this. It's important to us to stay united and to keep all the kids together. They get involved in organizations, they get involved in clubs, and the families all unite. So if you keep us, like I said, we're Winding Creek, we're Rodney Thompson, it makes sense to keep us Colonial Forge and to keep us right with everybody else themselves. It also keeps the percentages the same. From what I looked at from the 2 options, if you go with option A, it keeps the schools that are involved in this right in line at the same percentages, and that seems to make sense to me also. So thanks for listening to me. Good luck with everything, because same thing, it is an emotional thing for everybody, and I know it's not easy for you also. Thank you for giving your time, for thinking it through, but option A is where I'd go, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. If you'll just sign in right behind. Okay. Anybody else wishing to address the board?
Hi, my name is Rachel Johnson. I live on Garfield Street in the Rock Hill District, and I too just wanted to plead for you guys to please take into consideration the continuity of education. In my opinion, as soon as Berkshire and Amy Clay and stuff was taken off the table, option B, you do make those kids the weird outliers that will leave their elementary and middle school friends. I don't understand exactly why the other stuff off Walpole was left out. That does kind of segregate them, and having children that will do that will go to an elementary and a middle and then be there only about 10 of them that then go to a high school. I know how hard that is for the kids where we live. So I think option A, if you look at the feeder school system, does make more sense, but I also know you guys are looking at a lot more stuff than what I'm looking at, so I just would like to see the facts, the numbers, and not the pleading and the whining and the emotions that have come into it be what determines it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sorry, one moment. Hi, my name is Phyllis Fleming. Am I supposed to speak in here? Okay.
You got it.
And I'm from Autumn Ridge, and I'm here to plead with you guys, please do option B. I've been at Colonial Forge for 17 years. I've had 4 kids that went through. My oldest one graduated in 2008, and around that time when she went to Forge, they were redistricted, and a lot of her friends ended up going to Mountain View at that time. I mean, she had a great time at Forge. She's been very successful. She graduated from William & Mary. She graduated from grad school. She played basketball at Forge, and she went to grad school and college on a full scholarship. We've had a lot of support. Forge is our family. Even before Morgan, my other one, got there, we had a connection with the teachers and the coaches, and they still watch out for my kids, that they're there. And even now, Mr. Jones is like, how's Chanel doing? I mean, we have that connection. For 17 years, we've been in this school. We built relationships. And I understand the feeder schools. I get it. But there are schools that aren't in the feeder system. Rodney Thompson goes to Park Ridge goes to Rodney Thompson and goes to North Stafford. Embry Mill goes to H.H. Poole. So I understand the feeder school, but I don't know if that's a reason for it to be making that choice. My kids have friends from Whiting Creek. They still have friends when they go to Forge because we still have that connection. They play soccer together. I mean, other things that they do. I mean, I'm really pleading that my youngest one has the same experience as my older ones. She's been there since she was a baby, trailing the hallways. Even before they got there, they knew the school. I know the teachers, I know the principals. I was there when Ann Southworth was there. So I've been there a long, long time, and I really would not like to change. I know the grandfather thing is going on, but I do work, so I don't want to have that responsibility of dropping in and pick up my kid every day if I don't have to, because sometimes I can't do it. I mean, I have flexible hours sometimes, but sometimes I'm not able to pick her up. You know, she has to take the bus, and I just want her to have that same positive experience as all the rest of my kids. You want to say something? I think you should say something.
No pressure.
Well, sorry. Colonial Forge is just like a good school, and I want to go there. Like, all my friends go there, and I don't want to leave my friends, and just like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Oh gosh.
If you've said what you want to say, that's fine.
No.
If there's something else, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
Good?
Good, thank you.
Good evening, Todd Brown from 12 Fireberry in Autumn Ridge. So you've heard from me a number of times, but maybe just one last thing as far as actually looking at what seemed to be the driving force in your not your closed session, but your working session. Dealt with the progression of numbers, dealt with things you've talked about frequently, which are percentages that get to a minimal impact on the county. And so when I look at option B, obviously, which I favor, and I look at the progression, there really is a razor difference between the two. And so if you look at in 17-18, you're talking 12 students in difference, 12 students from one option and 3 from the other. The next year, it's about 10 students, and the following year, it's 10 again. So you're talking a handful of students. In 2021, it's about 50 students total at the end of the progression. So what I would appeal to you is that option B represents the least impact on the entire plate that you've considered, given all the debate we've had, all the discussions we've had. That option has the least impact and would leave Autumn Ridge where it's been for a very long time. So I appreciate you give that consideration this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget to sign in. Okay. Anybody else wishing to address the board? Come forward, wave. Okay, I don't see anybody. So then, if I don't see anybody else, I will close public comment at this time. We will move on to board committee reports. Are there any reports in the last week from any board members?
Real quick
Yes,
one.
Mr. Hines.
We did discuss Mr. Connolly and Mr. McCosker. If you guys are still good with it, we will have a FAB meeting, Finance and Budget meeting, on April 11th at 6 p.m., just prior to our regular school board meeting. We don't have a work session, so we're going to go ahead and meet then to get our FAB meeting in. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of information, or at least some idea of the direction the Board of Supervisors is going with their budget and what we can be looking at within our final budget.
Will
You
we
guys
have,
still good?
just question, Mr. Hirons, will it be approved, the school, Board of Supervisors by then?
So I don't think they have plans to approve theirs until the following week.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a slated, I think,
But they will have advertised the tax rate by then. We should have some.
It's
It should be,
advertised.
yeah, it should be, actually.
It's public hearings Tuesday.
Chris is going to be putting the screws to them across the
Yeah, I'm hearing it's
street to get some information.
April 18th, according to what Dr. Benson says, is when the,
We expect supervisors to approve their budget on April 18th.
and, the kids will be on spring break, but, okay.
Fortunately, the kids don't vote on the budget, or unfortunately, I suppose.
Ms. Egan.
I just have we're not doing member comments, correct? We're just doing, all right. But I do have, I've been asked to do a public service announcement, so I'm going to run with it. This Friday, here in central office, from 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock is the Red Cross Blood Drive. And I've been asked by the Red Cross representative, who happens to be the new, well, not new, he's been around for a while. I call him the friendly neighborhood vampire. Would like more people to sign up. He's got about 14 people, so if any of you can donate blood, come on by, sign up for Friday. Thanks.
All right, anybody else? Superintendent's comments, Dr. Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. March is Music in Our Schools Month, and we certainly had an opportunity to hear some pretty incredible performances over the course of this past weekend at our Fine Arts Festival. And I think everybody did an exceptional job, but I just have to do a shout out to our third grade students and our music teachers that put this musical together. That's really incredible. I've never seen anything like that done in any other school division, where the teachers pick a story and then they write the music for the various portions of their performance, and then somehow or another they get kids from all the schools together to make it work, which is incredible. I mean, just incredible performance. This evening, we were fortunate enough to have a quartet from Colonial Forge playing prior to the start of our board meeting. They did an exceptional job, and just want to recognize them for that. And although the official rollout of our new logo is not until Monday, right, we do have an event coming up, the Stafford Hospital 5K. And this is the T-shirt that 100 of our folks will be wearing in that race on April 8th. So we'll roll the rest of this out next week. So thank you.
I'm told over here that it was 122.
122.
Super clerk to the rescue. All right, moving on. We move on to our consent items. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve consent.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or items to be pulled from consent? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Consent items are approved. Moving on to our action items. What I'd like to say before the board takes up these two items, I would like to state that redistricting is not the reason many of us wanted to serve on the school board. I would argue that it is the least favorite part of our responsibilities. However, redistricting by law is the responsibility of the school board, and a difficult and unpopular decision for some members of our community will be made this evening. I would like to thank the board for agreeing to pursue a new process for public input and engagement related to redistricting. I hope that the board will consider using this type of format, implementing any lessons learned that we learned through this process this year as the board addresses future redistricting efforts. So thank you for your indulgence. So our next item on the agenda is agenda item 11.01, related to approving the grandfathering and sibling option in support of Colonial Forge redistricting. Is there a motion?
I have a motion to action to approve.
There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I will start with discussion with our motion maker, Mr. Conley.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to give my heaviest endorsement and urging that we approve the sibling and grandfathering policy. I think that through this process, we've heard a lot of different opinions and a lot of different input on what we're to do in the process. But I think that we've had differing opinions, obviously. I think the one thing that's been very clear from the community is anything that we can do to keep current students as well as siblings. I think that we've all had conversations with each other about how moving some of these stories have been of folks saying that, they've had to choose between two schools, or, that the school's been a part of their family, and financial issues and so many other things. And I just think that it makes sense. We've crunched these numbers. We can do it. And I think that I personally believe we owe this to the community to do this. So I would ask the board for the support on this. And again, thank you to Mrs. Hazard for really just being the driver on this.
Thank you. Mr. Hirons? I'll give you a second. Second.
There was just two things I wanted to make sure I know we brought to attention last time, and I do see the one is very clear, the first bullet point, under qualifying for sibling transition, does refer to, it can go to 7th, 8th, 9th grade, rising 7th, 8th, 9th graders, and their sibling that's in Colonial Forge now, they have to overlap at least 1 year in order to qualify. The other thing, I think it actually is covered just by the statement here. But I wanted to make sure that rising 10th, 11th, 12th graders who currently attend Colonial Forge by way of living in the attendance zone of Colonial Forge. I believe that is taken care of with the following verbiage and who are slated. Does it?
If the sibling is not there on a waiver or transfer.
Okay, thank you. So I am good with it. I want to thank Holly and Chris for really doing the heavy lifting with this and giving us a more detailed grandfathering. I've always hated that word, and it's a shame that's used for kids as young as 6th grade. Chris and Holly for doing the heavy lifting on this. I think this is more than we've ever seen before in a grandfathering process. We've always just said, let's do it. But this really lays out good detail, and I hope it's used in the future. It's kind of a shame it wasn't developed and thought of in the past.
Thank you. Ms. Egan?
Well, I'm sorry to be the dissenting opinion here, but I don't think this is going to help us with our numbers, first of all. But my biggest opposition to it is that 3 years ago when we did a redistricting, we had several parents beg us to do grandfathering and doing the sibling policy, and it was a flat no. So I think for that reason, all by itself, I'm going to give you my opposition to it. And the simple fact that we're going to be going full speed ahead once high school number 6 is built, I mean, we're setting a precedent here for this grandfathering thing, which could muck up the waters even further. So my vote, I'm sorry to say, is going to be no.
Mr. McCoskey?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This was good work. Thank you, Ms. Hazard, Mr. Connolly. I'm even saying a little bit different from Ms. Egan, that I will support this, but I think Mr. Hirons said it a little bit as well, that I think this is going to be a good template to use. And I think we should use this as a policy template, if that is all possible. And I guess we'll have to get with our policy gurus over there and the lawyer to put this out as a policy for our school division, so that folks like Mrs. Egan, when her district was redistricted, and she got the no on the sibling move, or whoever's in the next redistricting action, if there is indeed a high school 6, I'm not counting on it right now, but if there is indeed a high school 6, then this would be used as a process to kind of ease the pain of the parents and the kids.
Anyone else? Ms. Healy?
I'm not sure how we would address it here, but I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that there could be a situation where there would be a rising sibling who is not in the 7th, 8th, or rising to the 7th, 8th, or 9th grade. And that would be in a special ed situation, because our special ed students can stay in school until they're age 22. Is Dr. Clark here? Is it 20 through the school year? So I just want to make sure that we're cognizant of that, and that would be taken into consideration if someone were to apply, because surely the intent of this policy is if you have a sibling currently in Forge that, or if there is a student already in Forge, that a sibling who would be rising while that student is still at Forge, that they would be allowed to apply under this rule. So I don't know that we need to make a change here, but I would like to be reflected in the minutes that the intention is that a sibling be allowed to be at Forge while the older child is still a student there. And then the older child would have to be someone who will be a student as of as of September of this year, right? Arising, yeah.
I think that we even spoke about that in the work session with Ms. Kale, of making sure we were looking at those.
And I don't think there's any objection on the board, but I just wanted to be reflected, because those who come after us, if they're dealing with making that decision, if they read this literally, that would not be permissible.
All right. Anyone else? If not, I will make my comments on this. The board's decision to begin to address the overcrowding at Colonial Forge prior to it being over capacity to the tune of 111% in the FY 2021, I think allows the board to consider both a grandfather and a sibling option. The board's desire not to move current students during their high school career resulted in the grandfather opportunity, which was actually something the board seemed fairly invested in from the beginning. Based on public input and comments, I felt that it was important to consider this option when the sibling is living in the same house and would also be attending Colonial Forge. Due to the fact that the school division cannot offer transportation, we're down at least 20 bus drivers. I think this opportunity will ease some of that transportation burden and addresses some of the challenges occurring when a redistricting of high school students must occur in a growing community. So I will be voting in favor of that. I thank all those who came out and told their stories. I do believe each redistricting we have to look at very, very carefully and see what type of relief we can offer over a short and long term. And I think that will be something that our board will be presented and have to grapple with in redistrictings to come. On that note, I will ask, did you? No? Okay. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Madam Clerk, will you poll the board?
Mr. Conrad?
Aye.
Mr. Cater? Seegan?
No.
Ms. Hazard?
Aye.
Ms. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Hirons?
Aye.
Mr. McCasker?
Yes.
This motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Moving on, for the next agenda item, 11.02, I'm going to be handing the gavel to Mr. Hirons to act as chair for discussion and debate on the high school redistricting options. All yours, sir.
She handed me this, keep you in order. Next item is 11.02. Review and approve either option A or option B for Colonial Forge High School redistricting effective the 2017-2018 school year. Mr. Horan, is there any presentation necessary or looking for motions? Okay. Ms. Healy?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of option A.
Ms. Healy moves for option A and seconded by Jamie, by Ms. Decatur. I apologize. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer a substitute motion. I would like to move for approval of option A with the removal of APU 143, which is the Holly Corner area, from that option.
For discussion purposes, I'm going to go ahead and second that because I'm interested now.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
done by way of a substitute motion. So that's
Mr.
a motion
Chairman.
on the table.
Mr. Chairman, I would actually like to offer substitute to that.
Okay.
And if we could substitute and have consideration of option B.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay. So as I gather it, the motion that is currently on the table is to approve option B for the Colonial Forge redistricting. Mr. Conley, discussion? Are there any other substitute motions?
Well, we're substituting.
We're out of people. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I look out into the crowd right now, there's not many people here. And I think that is a sign that we're all tired, and I think everything's been said. I think some really compelling cases have been made throughout. I think that we've seen through this process how how bright some of the folks in our community are. From the very beginning in this process, when we met at Colonial Forge and we did number crunching, and we had people present maps, and you know, we had military folks who were planners and data people and statisticians, and I learned a lot in this process. A lot of ideas were brought to my attention. The folks that I'm representing, their emails and their calls really made some really good points, and I learned a lot through this, and I tried to incorporate that in my time up here. So I want to thank everybody here on the board. Really, this has been, and to folks out there, this is really a good group up here. Everybody is looking at their own areas, but they're also looking at the county. And, you know, my colleagues that are from down south, who don't have a quote-unquote dog in this fight, the question's consistently been, tell me about your area, tell me what's going on, and how does this reflect the best decisions for the county? And Dr. Benson has carried that torch as well. So this is a good group. I'm just gonna say that right out there. Some heated moments, which again, that means that we all care. So so with that said, I do want to make the case for option B. Both plans stay in our percentiles that we're looking to hit. Both plans meet goals that we have been looking to meet. From the beginning, I have said personally that I wanted to see the least amount of impact made on families and communities, while meeting our goal of providing relief to Colonial Forge over a time span, and also seeing students sent to North Stafford and working to improve the brand of that school, because it's a good school, and we've talked about that, and I think that we're going to do that. I support B because I think that B accomplishes this. I realize that if we were to look straight at numbers, B may not have the most direct impact next year. However, over a 4-year time span, which is what we look at, if we look at that chart, the green to yellow to red, Forge does not need the immediate impact relief next year. It needs it over 4 years. And I think that B does that. B takes Embry Mill and cuts it in half, and sends folks that are going to be moving in there. And I think that B does give the most relief for the least minimal impact. Autumn Ridge is a great community in North Stafford. They've been here. They've been here for the school. They've been involved in the community for a long time, and I would just ask that the board take this into consideration and choose B, because it allows Austin Ridge to stay put while meeting our goal over the next 4 years. So, but I thank everyone for the consideration.
Mr. McCosker? Comments?
I'll save them for option A, but thank you, Mr. Connolly, for your professionalism.
Any other discussion on the motion that's on the table for approval of option B? Without that, we will call for the vote. Please signify by stating aye for approval, stating no for disapproval.
No.
Call the vote.
Aye.
No?
No.
Madam Clerk, please poll the board.
Mr. Connolly?
Aye.
Mr. Cater? No. Seegan?
No.
Ms. Hazard?
No.
Seeley?
No.
Mr. Hirons?
Aye.
Ms. McCosker?
Abstain?
Your motion fails by the vote of 4 to 2 with 1 abstention.
Okay, that brings us back to the substitute motion of option A, removing APU 143. Ms. Hazard.
Thank you. Just for the board's consideration, as we spoke about some in our work sessions about this particular APU. As we know, most people can look at a map, and APU 143 borders the reservoir and the Rappahannock River in the southwest area off of Route 17. And I believe that the removal of this area makes sense for several reasons. First, there's no doubt that APU 143 will attend high school number 6 when it is built. I do not believe any of us think it will be in Colonial Forge when that happens. I don't think they will attend Colonial Forge until that neighborhood high school is built in the south of the county, which we desperately need. Moving APU 143 now to a new school that is a few minutes further distance from their homes than Colonial Forge seems premature and would result in another move of these students within 4 to 7 years. Secondly, option A with the APU 143 removed moves about the same students as option B does with APU 143 included. The number of students to be moved remains the same and remains within the recommended targeted number of students moving set forth by staff. If less current students can be impacted, I believe that is the best option. With regard to current impact, option A assumes that none of the 232 students who are at Colonial Forge today will move to their new high school. I believe that some students will move. By my calculations, a move of 22 students between schools results in a 1% shift in the percentage of the capacity of that school. I believe at least 22 students will move to these new schools by choice or summer move-ins, and that the removal of APU 143 does not move the percentages to such an extent as to justify moving them prior to the opening of High School 6. Lastly, I just would like to note that APU 143 is not in the targeted growth area set forth in the county's comprehensive plan. Much, if not all, of this area is not even on public sewer or water, and the growth here will be minimal. The targeted growth area for the county focuses on the courthouse planning area that's recommended to include 3,750 residential units, and the Central Stafford business area in the area of Centerport Parkway, which recommends 1,750 residential units. Moving APU 143 does not accomplish the need to move the high-growth areas out of the Colonial Forge attendance zone. More broadly, the approval of this option generally, including the part of the other APUs that are moving, that are also in the Hartwood District. This includes 124, 142, 187, North Embry Mill, and Winding Creek are not in my district, but these are in the center of the county, and they are parts that adjoin or are part of these targeted growth areas, so I am in favor of moving those options. It is certainly not hard. We have to say we're in favor, but we are presented an option that we need to do something. Approval of option A also results in elementary and middle school feeder patterns to the new high schools that make sense to me. So for those reasons, I would ask the board at least to consider the removal of APU 143 from option A.
While I have always advocated for keeping Holly Corner out of the mix because they are so distant to, where the problem really is right now, I'm going to support this because of that reason. However, I'm dismayed that we are not able to replace those numbers for the immediate relief that I was led to believe we need at Colonial Forge for next year. So you've got my support on this, but I'm a little hesitant.
I understand.
Any other discussion on this current motion, Mr. McCosker?
Thank you.
I'll remind you of the motion that's currently in consideration, option A, removing APU 143. The main motion will be option A.
Thank you, Mr. Hirons. I just wanted to have a few opportunities to, I'm not going to make another motion now, to change but after reading the hundreds and hundreds of emails, listening intently to the people of the county, I abstained, and I will abstain from option A as well, and for these reasons. I think I owe it to you to give those reasons. I believe in the school staff's hard work and their projections and their numbers, and that is one reason I abstain. As we've seen in many of our smart folks in this county, we're not moving a lot of kids next year. We're not moving a lot of kids the year after that. But the 2021 numbers, I do feel confident in. I believe moving Colonial Forge right now is not a reasonable option, though. However, I do believe as a board that one APU I would agree to move would be the Embry Mill North, or, if you will, a policy that the board needs to make those decisions on redistricting prior to the folks moving into the neighborhoods. I mean, that just makes perfect sense. I do feel strongly that 215 kids being out of the Colonial Forge neighborhood from that APU is going to make a difference in 2021, because I do believe in the numbers. However, the 65, the 70 folks that we may see, and those numbers may even diminish with the sibling options, just doesn't give me the confidence that, hey, we need to move right now. Another strong criteria in my decision for this course of action was that, we purposely kind of stayed away from those southern districts in Hartwood and a little bit in Falmouth for the simple reason that we're kind of betting on that and they're the furthest away, and we're kind of betting on that, hey, we're gonna drop a new high school off of Hartwood and they're all gonna move there. Well, I don't see that happen. I'm crunching the CIP numbers. I just don't see that happening, that $120 million high school coming within this CIP. So until we as a board and as the Board of Supervisors come together and say, hey, we're going to vote on a new high school and we're going to get a new high school, and that may happen within the next 10 months, 8 months, then we would come back to this redistricting decision next year. I know it stinks. I know it's hard work, and I know it's terrible to keep dragging people in and out of a redistricting issue, but it is a very important decision that I think, if I was going to go forward tonight, I would say APU 166, I believe it is, is that right? 166 from, I have it in my notes, from Embry-Riddle North, right? Yeah, I think we should move them tonight. But everybody else, we just stop and make some more decisions on and get some more data, so we have some better things to work with. Because right now, it looks like if that high school does not go down in Hartwood, all those southern districts it'll still be a huge mess for Colonial Forge, I believe, in the future. So for those reasons, I'm abstaining. I don't vote for nor against.
Any additional comments on the current motion? I'm going to just give my comments on this as well. I really would like this to be the option, be the way we go, because I agree with Ms. Hazard's kind of summary there of Halley Corner and how it'd be good to keep them where they're going. But frankly, the numbers just don't work for me correctly, so I just can't support the motion as is. And I'll try and correct this verbiage this time. So the motion on the table currently is option A, removing APU 143. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying no.
No.
No. And anyone abstaining. Madam Clerk, can you poll the board, please?
Mr. Connolly?
No.
Mrs. Cater? No. Ms. Egan?
Yes.
Ms. Hazard?
Yes.
Ms. Healy? Yes. Mr. Hirons?
No.
Mr. McOsker?
Abstain?
Your motion fails? Oh, no, your motion passes. No?
No.
No.
No. There's a tie vote.
Tie vote.
There's a
Fails.
vote.
It fails.
I can't count.
Ties fail.
Your motion fails.
All right, so now we're back to the main motion of option A as presented to us within the agenda and what we discussed and finalized last week. Ms. Healy, you were the motion maker. You have first discussion.
Well, I would like to recognize all the people that have communicated with the board, whether it be through emails, through coming to the meetings, through the public hearings, through the community meetings, and for sharing your thoughts and your concerns. It is clear that everybody cares, everybody that has written to us or communicated to us, and they care about their families, they care about their students, and they care about our schools. So I want to thank you all for that. And I have to echo Ms. Hazard's comments at the beginning of this. This is the hardest thing we have to do as a school board because it affects the families. And they're not numbers, and they're not just out there. We know these are students, and these are children, and these are families and their friends. And unfortunately, to do the right thing for a school that's overcrowded, we have to move some students out. I support option A because I think that accomplishes the goals of the school board that were set forth last fall, And hopefully it will provide some, relief in the coming year. And I know we don't need to have the full numbers out in the coming year, but whatever relief we can provide incrementally until we get to that 2021 when we were so far in the red, I think will be helpful for Forge. But I do want to thank everybody and just let you know that your communications, were taken to heart. Thank you.
Ms. Decatur?
So I've been pretty boisterous throughout this entire planning process, and I think that I've made my opinions pretty well known. And I want to echo, much of what you have all said up here tonight. You bring a lot of good points, and really, I've read the emails, I've heard from every one of you in every neighborhood, and I really feel that the best thing I could do now is let us all take a vote. So you've been sitting here long enough, and you are probably ready to hear something. But I do want to let you know that I didn't take this lightly. I went out, I drove the roads, I looked at so many numbers, and like I said, I've been pretty boisterous throughout this whole process. So I will leave it at that for now.
Ms. Egan?
So I'm going to go ahead and support option A. And I, too, have read everybody's comments. I haven't always been able to respond to everyone because I do have my own constituents I have to respond to, and I do work a full-time job, too. So being a single mom, it's kind of hard to be able to dedicate the time. But I have heard, and I have heard everyone, and everyone seems to be on the same page with the fact and the demand that we need high school number 6. And I am confident that it is going to get pushed up into the CIP. We're doing a completely new prioritization when it comes to CIP projects in the county. We're going to be working closely with the county on things like this. And I truly believe that this is a need that the entire county wants. I mean, we heard everyone at the work session we had at Colonial Forge. Every group that I had spoken to, our first option is build high school number 6. And as long as everybody keeps that in the back of their mind, and remember this exercise that we've gone through here. Our estimates, what we've been looking at as far as our forecasting, the past 3 years we've been on the money, 98, 99% accuracy in what we're predicting coming in here. Most of you have already seen that chart with all that red there. The kids are coming. People are coming to Stafford. We've got beautiful new homes going up. We've got the hot lanes that are going down. I had the same conversation 3 years ago when we talked about the hot lanes terminating at 610. Katie barred the door, I said. I remember saying that. They're coming. Well, they're here, and now there's more coming. So I am confident that high school number 6 is going to be pushed up in the CIP, and it is going to happen. And looking at these numbers, option A is what's going to help us get to that, and that's where I'm concentrating on, is making sure everybody's taken care of by getting that high school number 6 built. Thanks.
Ms. Hazard?
Sure. I think what's been amazing during this process, which all of us have noted, is it's been a great way to engage with the community and get to know some of you. Sometimes it's been heated, sometimes it hasn't, but we know it is because you care. I would just implore you, the numbers that we have before us tonight reflect the development as of before July 1. Is that correct, Mr. Horan? July 1 was our cutoff of development that we included. So since July 1, there may be other development. There may be other development coming that we haven't accounted for, because it is coming and it has come. So what I would say to you all is, as Ms. Egan talked about high school 6, we heard that. We also heard a concern, not one that I buy into exactly, but that we want our schools to all be offering great programs. We have great teachers, we have great students, we have great things, but it seems like there was a cry from the community to say, we want it to be greater for everybody. Now, the way that we get there is going to be, I would like, is everybody coming and looking at our budget? Are we budgeting the right way? Are we putting money towards the high school? Our new budget has about unveiling a brand-new curriculum, beginning that process. We are starting to do that in our schools, somewhat because of mostly because of the great leadership of Dr. Benson, but he spoke about it at all of our community meetings, or at least the ones that I attended. I think I attended everybody's. That he talked about that really exciting thing coming. But I will tell you, it does take money. We have to continue to invest in this system. So I hope that the last time that I see all of you is not tonight, and then it's not a re-engagement when we start another redistricting process. We need to be working together as a team throughout the year, not just when something impacts our child. We need to look out for everybody's child in this county. The most amazing thing we can offer our community is a great public education, and we are offering it, but let's make sure we continue to offer it for those of us who are here and for those that are coming. So I would just issue an invitation. Let's continue to partner, not just on something like this, but on all the other issues we have going forward to accomplish the things that came out of these great community work sessions. I will be supporting option A. I've already stated my reasons. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I'll just wrap up discussion. I just want to echo two things I heard. One by Ms. Healy, it said that, this, as many of you said, this is a difficult process. And I was warned when I first ran for the board, redistricting is the toughest thing you can do as a school board member. I thought, really, how hard could it be? It's the hardest thing that a school board member does. Because as Ms. Healy put it, we are talking about the kids. We're talking about real people. We're talking about our neighbors, and that is one of the most difficult things about service on a school board is you are affecting your neighbor, but more importantly, you're affecting your neighbor's kid. So you definitely hear from your neighbors on how you're affecting their kid. We've gone through a redistricting in the Falmouth area, and kids that my kid attend school with, and I heard an awful lot then. I know my fellow board members that have kids in the schools, that they're going to have friends that are going to be affected by this. They're going to hear from their neighbors. What Ms. Hazard was just stating about involvement in the school system. This is a very important thing because we often hear, why are you guys rushing this? Why did this just come up? Unfortunately, redistricting can be kind of like a rocket launch. You go down to Cape Canaveral to see the last 5 minutes of the rocket to be launched into space. Well, there was years of work going into that to make that last 5 minutes actually happen. And that's what we've been working with for a long period of time, from Mr. Horan's office constantly collecting the data and providing the data to us first getting notified. We have an issue at Colonial Forge. Well, we probably heard that. I've heard it since I've been on the board, really. We're going to probably have to deal with Colonial Forge here in a few years. And, it finally came up. And over the last year, it's probably been a whole year process that we have been starting to receive information and data. And then we get to the point of that public input. And it's great to see the community come out so strongly and so active and want to be so active for their schools at those public hearings and public information sessions. We need that all the time. We have all kinds of opportunities to volunteer at the school division level, not just at the school level with your PTOs, with your classrooms, but at the division level with our citizen advisory committees. All kinds of openings, and really at those committees are typically fairly unlimited, and we can get you opportunities to help us run the school division. It helps you stay informed and stay involved. So I'd please encourage anybody in this room or anybody who's watching, please reach out to our clerk's office about our advisory committees and volunteer your time. It doesn't take much more than one night a month, maybe one night every 3 months, and you'll be amazed at how much information you can gather. So with that, we can call the question. And the motion on the table is option A as presented in our agenda and as we worked on last week. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying no.
No.
And any abstentions?
I abstain.
Madam Clerk, can you please poll the board?
Conley,
No.
Peters, Yes. Deegan.
Yes.
Hazard.
Yes.
Keeley. Yes. Mr. Herron.
Aye.
And one abstention. Chair, motion passes. 5-1.
All right, and we survived. I did not dissolve the school board.
There you go.
Ms. Hazard, please take it back.
Well, I like moving on to the next agenda item, which is 12.01. This is actually on for information. I believe most of us have discussed that there is some time urgency to this. It is concerning approving the 2016-17 school calendar with the amendments regarding April 14th and Friday, May 26th, to make those a full day off for students, and those on, correct me, Dr. Benson, if I'm, and those on the 10-month contract. Is that correct?
Correct. This adjustment, it would not impact our 12-month employees. We are not adding an additional holiday to our schedule. We're making this a non-teaching day, so teachers and students and other employees that are not connected with that would not need to be at school. We had originally planned for these 2 days to be early out days. We've provided some supporting information to the board as in the form of an attachment that shows the amount of bank time that we have remaining at the elementary, middle, and high school level. The elementary level
2.66 days.
is 2.66 days, and that's our the lowest number across the 3 levels of schools, but sufficient to cover extending those 2 days to full out days.
Madam Chair, I'd like to entertain moving this to action.
Yes, let's see if there's any discussion
Prior
first,
to
and then
that,
I think.
just discussion.
Yeah.
I do have one question. So the 2.66 days, 2 half-days, would that be 3 hours a day? Is that what it is we're adding? 3 hours a day for a total of 6 hours of instructional time?
I conservatively did it at 4 hours just to make sure that
It's
we
4
would.
and 4, so 8 hours of
so
instructional time, so that's.
We have sufficient
So
savings to cover it.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll have an extra 1.66 days to, in case something else happens. Is that what it is?
And
Just
the
don't
long-range
tell-
forecast has no
Has no-
frozen precipitation.
No precipitations or abstentions in the forecast? Is that what it is? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, and I do appreciate the opportunity for the SEA to come up and give us their input. For years, I've valued that input, and it's strong input, and so I support this, of course.
Before, Ms. Healy?
Madam Chairman, I just wanted to ask about the administrators and the office staff at the schools. They're going to be there by themselves all day?
As they would be on any other day that teachers and other folks that work directly with kids are not.
Right, but realistically, if all these people are going to be on the roads, as we heard earlier, they're probably not going to be coming in the schools to make any changes. I'd like to consider, at least making that a half day or, for the schools. I mean, I fully support no school. Your estimate of 4 hours instructional time is generous. I've been in schools on those half days, and I'm not even sure there's 1 hour. I'm not the fault of the teachers, but it's what the kids are so excited about, getting ready for that break. It's hard to get things done on those pre-holiday days.
Madam Chair? Didn't we recently adopt a policy that gives Dr. Benson the same authority as the county administrator to grant time off
It's only
on
if they
special
are doing
occasions?
it. If the counties do, well, I can ask. It was only if the county was doing it.
Correct. If the county administrator should make a change to their calendar, we could do something in parallel to try and align the number of holidays that we have for 12-month employees.
If they do a half day.
We wanted to stay in line. I was going to remind the board just quickly about, I do agree with Dr. Benson can call up the principals and have a little chat with them about those days. However, just officially, we did come to a consensus and a policy that made sure that the county employees were not getting their 16 days off, and we were getting 22 for our 12-month employees, as much as, and that was, so that has something to bear on this 12-month issue, just for the folks that don't know. We're trying to stay in line with county to make sure we're giving the same 12-month employees the same amount of days off, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we can.
One quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to make absolutely sure. I support this, and as Mr. Hayes pointed out, no kids are in the school those days anyway, or very few. I do want to make absolutely sure, again, on record, this, taking these days off will not affect anything like AP tests, SOL makeups, crunch time, those things. I don't want to start receiving emails then from teachers after we approve this, assuming this will receive approval, receiving teachers, why did you do that? Now I can't do X, Y, Z. Are we confident that that's not going to happen?
Well, Mr. Hirons, I don't know that I can be 100% confident that that's going to happen, because it seems that no matter what decision the board makes at times, that we get some folks that are in agreement.
They don't
and
agree with us
others
sometimes.
that don't agree. We've done some checking in with folks.
Yes,
I can't
that's
say
what I'm
that,
asking
that we've talked with everybody in the division as to whether or not they are supportive of this or not, but there seems to be a general consensus that, given that these were early out days in any case, there's less of an impact there, if there is going to be an impact.
If I could just follow up on that, I guess, should the board approve that, we do have a communications plan ready to go that, even though we are getting close to it, we still have almost 2.5 weeks, so that there can be some planning done, I would believe,
And
by
I appreciate your email
teachers
on
to,
that fact today, Madam Chair. That was a good email.
So, that we can, allow that to happen if, allow people to get that planning time. Dr. Benson, I assume there's a communication plan, should we approve this. Ms. Egan, I think I will turn to you. You had something I thought you wanted to make potentially a motion.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Remember?
I move to approve.
No, first move.
I already moved it. You seconded it.
I know, but she wanted discussion, so you got to
We
give
did-
it
we
again.
didn't
Okay, so I'll start over again then. Madam Chair, I'd like to entertain moving this agenda item to action.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving this item to action, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, do you have a follow-on motion, Ms.
I
Egan?
do. Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve 12.01, the 16-17 school year calendar adjustment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Again, any further discussion? No?
I just want to
Yes,
make
go
a
ahead, sorry.
quick statement. And the reason I am supporting this, and I'm sorry, I am kind of doing this for a purpose, is the letters that we received last time. I did read through every one of them, and the arguments that those children made, and it was 24 total students, 18 in favor and 6 against. That one little lobbyist, if you recall, we did have 6 students from one classroom that opposed this motion. But they made very good arguments, and I most certainly hope all of those students really appreciate the extra time they have with their family and friends.
Amen.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. This will be communicated on social media and such tomorrow. Thank you. Moving on to 12.02, this is to approve superintendent's proposed reorganization. I believe the board has this in front of them. Dr. Benson, do you have any preliminary comments about this item?
I don't. I'm going to have Dr. Strike come
Okay.
on up, and may have some comments to add when she's finished presenting.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board. I'm going to go ahead and open up a PDF for our listening audience, but you have the pieces of this, and of course it was in the agenda item. So we're here before you this evening to consider making a commitment to actually an FY18 budget proposal that has to do with realignment and reorganization of learning and organizational development. There's several reasons for that, and I just want to take a minute to go over those for our viewers and our listening audience. And the first one is, originally in the efficiency study that organized a merging of the professional learning position with the curriculum instruction position and created my position, there was also discussion in that efficiency review for a reorganization of curriculum and instruction staff. Second to that is, of course, a lot of changes at the state level with the profile for the Virginia graduate. And although we don't have the latest blueprint of the revised profile for the Virginia graduate, we do know that there will be identification of increased rigor
The state also has the same Cs that we have in our strategic plan. So this focus on skill sets for students. Very proud of the fact that I've joined an organization like Stafford County Public Schools this year, and I live in Stafford County, and we have this wonderful reputation for being fully accredited. With the profile of the Virginia graduate and with our own strategic plan that was passed last spring, the idea that we have to move beyond that minimum standard is really what you all have set as a vision, a mission, and some of the goals that we have in the strategic plan, which require the folks that I work with on a day-to-day basis to really consider how they work and what we'll do in order to achieve that. So, for example, with the demands, or I should say the goals and the objectives in the strategic plan with a new curriculum framework, a new professional learning framework, and really looking at how we have worked historically in terms of supporting our schools. So there's been a lot of discussion this year among this team about working in silos within disciplines, and the idea of looking forward to our C5W skills, all of that investment in professional learning, and what we will do to coordinate together in order to provide an interdisciplinary approach to that. So those are some of the historic elements that lead to the idea of realigning our staff, our learning and organization development staff. This is the current organization. It's rather traditional and top-down, and what I would like to propose is the idea that we would move the timeline up simply because these are all new positions. The existing positions, the coordinator positions are 11 months, and the supervisor positions, there's 5 of them. The idea that we would be eliminating all of those positions and 2 support positions and actually looking at a team, a more flattened kind of hierarchy, and we would be looking at a team and everybody working as facilitators with 2 leads. And those leads clearly reflect what I had just mentioned, was the increased need for design work in curriculum and instruction, and also those increased competencies that we're beginning to see coming in from the state in the CTE and workplace preparedness area. The reason why we're asking for a commitment now is because of the timeline with the FY18 budget. Part of our restructuring was that everyone who's currently on staff would be re-interviewing for these new positions, and those job descriptions were attached to the agenda item. And secondly, to do those interviews at this time of the year with our HR counterparts in collaboration with us becomes very difficult if we're waiting until the FY18 budget is totally approved. So what we wanted to do is ask for your commitment in the reorganization so that we can begin to post positions and to interview for the new positions so that we would be in place for the upcoming summer professional learning, such as SLA and our new teachers, the School Leadership Academy and our new Teachers Institute. Are there any questions, any other questions you might have?
Madam Chair. On this chart here, and I think the last time you showed us this slide, I think I asked the same question, but I don't remember what it meant. Facilitator for world language and culture is green. Why is that different than all of the others?
Good question. I failed to mention that. So that is green because that is the new FTE in your FY18 budget. So in other words, through the process of eliminating supervisors, coordinators, and the support positions, we created facilitator positions, but we're asking for a new FTE, which is also in the FY18 budget, and that separates out world language and a focus on culture in the FY18 budget. So that is a new FTE.
Okay, great. So now that we're going to have somebody overseeing that whole program, is this going to, I don't know if fix is the right word, but will it help us utilize the resources that we have now to maybe expand our foreign language program a little bit more in the middle school section? I know we've got some anomalies going on here with only providing Spanish at one kind of drives everybody towards Spanish, and then we end up losing FTEs at the high school level at some point, maybe because nobody else is taking anything other than Spanish.
Right. We clearly need an in-depth focus on world language and what we're about in terms of world language and cultural studies, and how that works with a new curriculum framework. That inequity or disparity or abnormality that we all are experiencing and very frustrated about would be the first task of the world language facilitator.
Thank you.
And there's been quite a lot of discussion about different options and different things that we can do. But clearly looking at world language as a K-12 kind of position to be in, simply because if you look at the profile of the Virginia graduate so far, the emphasis on citizenship, the emphasis on competition, and competing in a workplace where you're going to need other tools in your toolbox, one of them possibly being in the area of world language. So, yes.
Good to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Harris?
Janet, I just wanted to, I think probably pick your brain a little bit on, some of your thinking here. Are some of these positions, facilitator levels, are they going to be, and I know the intent is for them to work very collaboratively, are they going to be sort of cross-trained in disciplines as well? This is one of my concerns about, and growing in FTE, it's something that gets recognized by, within our budget, which gets recognized by our funding body. And what I've seen in the past, some of these learning organizations, they leave positions vacant, like a coordinator or what you used to have supervisors. And these kind of become targets during budget season. So what my concern is, it's kind of a large spread out organization or a collaborative organization now, which is good, is if a vacancy were to occur within the circle or two or three, are we able, does this model still work if that situation occurs?
That is the intention and the vision for this model. So, for example, when thinking in terms of concepts that students have to develop and understand, and that idea of increased rigor across all disciplines is very much a part of the idea of collaborative teamwork in 12-month positions. So one of the examples Dr. Benson recently used was the idea of when you're thinking about why you learn science as a student. Everybody has a different answer or a different response to that. You might go to biology, you might go to life sciences, and the whole idea of systems thinking as a common piece that exists in all the disciplines and how that's blended together. So that literacy piece there in terms of discipline is part of this design for this reorg. And in addition, and I think this is really important, when you look at combining professional learning with curriculum and instruction, as we did, the idea that we're asking teachers, in order to have students learn differently, we have to ask teachers to teach differently. And we have teams of teachers. We're recognizing the importance of teacher leadership, beginning with the summit in June. But the idea that we work the same way here. In other words, we work in a professional learning community, and we really support the human infrastructure that is out in those schools. That's a little different. That requires a great deal of coordination for this team than what we have been doing in terms of here's a math professional learning experience, here's an English professional learning experience. Really a needs-based, aligned with a school improvement plan, and coordinated effort by this team here. I'm I believe we're going to get more mileage and more understanding about the different initiatives coming out of learning and organizational development
Great,
with that
thanks.
coordination.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And for the record, I support this idea, and I support what we have budgeted, and as I've advocated with my fellow board members, I'll be supporting making sure that we protect that budget item, so this absolutely becomes a reality.
Thank you. When we think about recruiting season, we think about talent and the fact that we do want a very talented team moving forward. The idea that this would be a good time, although it's ahead of the approval of the FY18 budget, to not only post positions and possibly attract some new talent, but in addition, out of respect for the folks that are working with us right now who have to re-interview, it allows and affords them the opportunity to take advantage of perhaps other openings if they're not selected by the interview panel in a timely fashion.
I have a quick.
Mr. McCosker.
Well, thank you, Dr. Strike. Excellent proposal. Of course, I'm going to, like Mr. Hiram said, we're going to try to support keeping this funding. As I was reading over some of the position descriptions in here, and they're very thorough, and thank you very much. Something that's going on with me and my kids now, my two older ones, my two younger ones yet, but like the counselors at the schools are kind of like, they're like the repository of information, guidance, professional development, and they can really steer you very well, or they can steer you maybe not so well. Now, personally, my experience is they've always steered my children very well, right?
Yes.
So the question, and this doesn't have to be answered now, so what is the conduit to take, or the middleware, if you will, to take all 16 positions and professional supervisors and to funnel that into an information package down to those counselors? So who's telling the counselors, besides the principal, what to do and how to guide the students? Does that make sense?
That's a valid question. That position currently sits in Sue Clark's area, Student Services, in that area as a supervisor position. We certainly are very closely associated and work with the Program of Studies. And there's been conversation about how we can improve that process, but we simply didn't have an FTE for it here, and it has been sitting in Dr.
Okay.
Clark's area.
So yeah, I appreciate it. I wanted to voice that. I think it's an important piece to the puzzle because that is, those counselors are steering those kids
They
to
absolutely
the right
are.
classes, the right, whether it's STEM or, so I would just like to maybe bring that up, Dr. Benson, and sit down with you and make me smarter, Pam, and Dr. Strike, to how we could best do that to make sure that all the counselors are getting the same information at the same time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Healy?
I just want to say I'm really excited about that world language and culture position.
Good.
I've thought for years that it would be helpful to have somebody, from a central point that was available to help out at the schools, because I don't know if you've had experience with the schools, but my understanding is there are different levels of expertise among the various schools in different, languages. My interest was in Spanish because I majored in Spanish literature, and I found a wide range of opportunities available at the schools and what the students were getting out of school with. So I'm hoping that with this position, there will be someone who can raise the bar and hold all our schools to that standard that we're going to set. I mean, we've talked about it with the high schools, having, equivalent programs, and I think language is going to be a good one, and to have somebody there that is excited to be there and very well qualified will be great. I do have a question. You mentioned several times about advertising. Would it be helpful if this were addressed this evening? I know next month contracts are going to start to go out, and there's going to be lots of competition, among the school districts. So I imagine HR, they'll run with it, but even running, it still takes a couple weeks to get it set up. So, if you had a preference, what would it be?
I would love to see you all move this into a fast track because the sooner that I can work closely with Lisa Boatwright and the folks in HR, the sooner we can certainly begin the interview process and the identification process, especially with the spring break period. We lose that time in April.
All right. Do I?
All right,
do I hear-
I move we move this item to action.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on moving item, sorry?
Is Ms. Boatwright outside? Is Ms. Boatwright in here?
She's in.
Boat- Just want making sure that, she wants to coordinate with you.
12.02 to action. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Healy, is there a follow-on?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded very quickly. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say how fortunate we are to have Dr. How do you stretch? Strike. I know, I'm looking at spelling it, and I'm the language major, right? But Dr. Strike, I'll think of that in the bowling ball from now on. So it's wonderful to have you here. You've really, brought a new level of expectation, I think, to our school district that fits right in with Dr. Benson's plans for excellence.
Prior to the vote, I hadn't made any comment yet. Ms. Healy must have been thinking what I was. Many of you do not know, but in just a few days, on April 1st, we will have the anniversary of Dr. Benson joining our team here in Stafford County. So this is my opportunity to say thank you for coming. I have not seen, and I was only on the board, believe it or not, I was on the board 3 years and had 3 superintendents, so I'm kind of unique in that. But I've not ever seen the emphasis and the discussion about instruction, the importance of instruction, and the fact that Dr. Benson goes into classrooms, teaches classrooms, participates in classrooms, plays instruments, I even know that I think we are on such a great path. I think this is one more piece as we continue to make us not just a great, an excellent and outstanding school district. And so I will be in favor of this, and I too, as Mr. Hiron stated, will also work to make sure that we keep those, that money protected in our budget going forward, because one of the most important things we do is instruction and send our students out, and this increased emphasis on that is something that I fully support. With that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Boatwright, you have some work to do. All right, moving on to our staff reports. This will be our C5W learning walks, and I think Ms. Neely is going to get us started.
Come on down. Oh, good, it's there. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Benson. It is my pleasure to share an update on our work in C5W, and more specifically, our progress related to our C5W learning walks. As you know, Goal 1 in our strategic plan appropriately targets student achievement. And in Board Priority 1.1, we are charged to define, develop, implement, and measure effective teaching practices that maximize rigor and engagement for all students in support of C5W. Up to this point, we've focused our efforts on defining and developing our C5W skills and look-fors to capture this work in action in our classrooms. Currently, we are moving toward the last quarter of an initial development phase and plan to be ready for full implementation in the fall of 2017. So while we will continue to focus on the who, what, where, and when, as required by our standards of learning, we will be expanding our emphasis on why and how. In a review of our timeline, you may remember that we began this work in June 2015, where we had over 150 folks, teachers, administrators, come together, do some research on best practices in terms of 21st century, as we began calling them all-century skills, what we wanted our graduates to be able to do in Stafford County Public Schools beyond our SOLs. And now we'll be looking at full implementation in the fall of 2017. So we've put a lot of work into this, and we're really excited about our next steps. So what are C5W Learning Walks? Our learning walks give us an opportunity to collaborate with our colleagues, to reflect on learning tasks. I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute, related to our work in C5W. So it's a way to measure our growth in that area. It gives us a way to promote our all-century learning skills beyond SOLs. It's an intentional way of a snapshot in a student's learning that captures C5W in action. It's a way of identifying research-based instructional best practices, whether that's Schlechty's work in engagement, or Johnny Antonetti's work in learning walks, or our work when we decided on our 5 Cs before the state came up with their same exact 5 Cs, which I think is pretty incredible. They did forget the W for wellness that we knew was very important. Little push from our superintendent on that piece, I think. And we complete learning walks in a group of 3. So that's really different than our learning walks of the past, where they were more administrative. Not that those are totally going away, but they're not going to be C5W learning walks. So C5W learning walks are not evaluative for the individual teacher or replacement for teacher observations. We'll still have a process in place to be able to evaluate teachers, but that's not what we're looking for. It's not the side of the coin we're looking at in C5W. We're looking at the learning tasks. It's not a replacement or the end of teaching standards. We are still responsible. We're a public school. We're responsible for teaching SOLs. We're going to continue to do that, but again, we're going to up the rigor, as Jan mentioned earlier. They're not observations of the teacher. In fact, a funny story that one of the principals shared with me recently about a learning walk that she had taken her teachers on. She asked them when they came out, there's a reflection time after you observe the task, and she said, did anybody notice what the teacher was wearing? And none of the teachers even knew what the teacher was wearing, because when you go in, you don't look at the teacher, and that's very different from our approach in the past. It's not administrators walking without teachers. We have the never walk alone. You know it's a learning walk if your administrator's not alone, if they're accompanied by teachers. They may just be, you may just have a group of 3 teachers, but if your administrator has a group of teachers with you, it's not your evaluative kind of walkthrough piece of the past. So this is just an overview of our learning walk template at this point in time. In fact, we've already started making a few changes, and we have some exciting news on that I'll share with you later. But again, you see our 5 Cs and our W, and then the things that we're going to be looking for within that. But I want to focus on just 2 areas tonight to give you an example of what does this look like. When we did our work this summer with Johnny Antonetti, he advised that we start small and learn from each other and not go full steam ahead and just check off boxes. That's not what this is about. It's about reflective conversations. It's about really digging in and thinking about the learning task in front of a student. And that's what makes it really exciting. So I'm going to give you a little example here. You can kind of scan the areas of communication and critical thinking are the 2 that we've suggested that folks start with. One, because the area of relevance can be one of the lowest hanging fruit. If a child doesn't know why they're learning something, then it's going to be really hard to anchor that in any kind of meaningful way. And so it's something that I think we sometimes take for granted when we're rushing to teach and for students to learn. So an example might be I walk into a classroom with a group of 3. I'll kneel down next to the student and I just start talking with them. So it might go like this. What are you doing? Math. Well, what are you learning in math? Fractions. So I see you're working on a problem here. Can you tell me about it? Well, see, our teacher gave us a choice of these pizza recipes, but they're all recipes for 2, and we all come from different sized families. So we have to pick, like I have 4 in my family, so I have to figure out how this recipe would change if I were making it for my family. So here where it says a half a cup of cheese, I'd have to double that. But, you know, Roberta, who's at my table, comes from a family of 6, and she always has people over, so she's figuring out what that recipe would be for a table of 8, for a group of 8. Then we'll have to prove to our table partners that we have enough pizza for everyone we're inviting. So then you get the idea. It's a natural conversation with a student. I'll tell you, the kids love it. Even our high school students, when we went there as part of our training, what you do is you go on a vertical walk. So, you know, I went into American Sign Language classes. I don't have any experience in American Sign Language, but you can still get at these areas. It really doesn't matter the content expertise that you have. It's helpful to have different lenses. So you may have someone with that background, but the rich conversation really comes when you have a variety of folks added to the conversation. Excuse me. So if we look at that in terms of these areas, I would have said my student probably had reached that level of relevance. He really knew why he was doing what he was doing, and he could relate it to something in the outside world. But again, when we're having this discussion or a debriefing of the 3 when we come out of the room, it's possible that the other 2 folks saw something different from their student. So what we really want to determine is, did the task that was provided by the teacher, the task design, the lesson design, really drive that level of relevance? In this lesson, it would have, because specifically you had to relate it to your size of family or how many guests you were inviting. We discussed the other areas, if we saw those as indicators, and we do the same with the level of critical thinking. So you're questioning, and that's one of the things we're working on, is being better at the kinds of questions that we ask students. We don't want to necessarily lead them, but we want to get at the level of relevance right now and critical thinking. Those are the areas we're going kind of deep into initially, and then once we get good at those and we develop that inter-rater reliability, then we'll move on to more in-depth training in the other areas. So for critical thinking, in the example that I gave you, I would say that my student was probably at an applied level. You know, they were applying it to their world outside of school. And then we would talk about, you know, did we see any indication? Were there pizza manipulatives available and on hand? Because we know that that increases the level of thinking when students can actually demonstrate their learning by figuring it out and moving parts around. Does anyone want to know what psychomotor is? A leading question. So you may go to a band performance, for example, where you're just practicing over and over again. It's not necessarily recall or understanding. Maybe you have that, but you're working on a performance piece, and so you're practicing over and over again. It's very valuable in that instance, and all of these have their place. That's one of the things we really didn't want to say high, middle, low necessarily thinking, because we really just wanted to call it what it was so we could develop that common language among us.
That's a question.
Sure.
It just raised a question in my mind. Back in the day, when I went to school, we had to memorize all the multiplication tables, 1 through 12. I mean, I could give you the answer now. I mean, it's been so long. Would that be psychomotor?
Yeah,
Almost?
it would be. It would be at a certain point in a child's development. Initially, it wouldn't be, because what would happen is if I just memorized them and I didn't understand what they meant, then that could prohibit my learning down the road. So first, you want to develop that conceptual understanding of what is, 3 times 9, for example, 3 groups of 3, right? Or did I say 3 times 9? I had 3 times 3 in my head. There you go.
You guys are swell.
Right, there you go.
But
Yeah.
I was just curious because
No, that's an example of fluency.
psychomotor.
Yeah, with a particular piece. Even And again, there's a difference if you are a student just learning to read, for example, then you may be at a recall, understand level of what different, attaching different sounds to different letters. But after you've learned to read, you might be working on your fluency, and that would probably be more in the psychomotor piece. Good question.
Ms. Neal,
And
if I could just add, on that previous slide, all of those different strategies that are in those instructional strategies, the discussion summarizing non-linguistic representation, similarities and differences, they're all rooted in research. Marzano's high-yield instructional strategies, and there is research that supports the level of achievement you can get from kids when you use these strategies consistently in classrooms. So we're trying to define what that would look like across the division as a whole.
And so today we've got a core group of teachers leading the initial implementation of our C5W learning walks. We have over 900, and keep in mind the reason I chose my pizza example is I had this prepared for Pi Day, but we probably have over 1,000 to date who've participated in learning walks in classrooms across the division. By June 2017, our goal is for teachers to receive an introductory training. Many of our schools have just gone full force, and some of them are even on their second walks for their entire school. Some of them are taking it a little bit more slowly, and that's okay because we're all kind of on a continuum right now, but that's our goal by June, is that everyone would receive a basic level of training. And our next steps, our school-based teams will continue that work. We're going to begin collecting data, basically to see where our baseline information is. And again, I'll share a little bit about that in a few minutes, or a few seconds actually. I want to give a particular shout out of thanks to our board for supporting our Teaching and Learning Summit because of the emphasis that you all are putting financially on how important that is. We're going to be able to train 1/3 of our teachers in this process in a way more in-depth level than we've been able to at this point in time. We've only had 2 teachers from each school at this point in time who've received more of a full training. So that's going to be just huge, and we hope it's going to build so much excitement for our work. We are going to follow up with professional learning, and as Jan mentioned earlier, the exciting next step is going to be our curriculum development and design that's related to this work. And I haven't even told Dr. Benson this, but I had someone from another division today call me to find out about what we're doing with C5W, so that was pretty exciting. And so in closing, C5W learning walks are one tool that works on that measure part of effective teaching practices, and we are looking forward to measuring our progress as we aspire to engage, challenge, and prepare every student for success. Oh, and our last note, we got a notification today that our app, which we'll be using eventually, right now we're just using a piece of paper and we're kind of just talking about it, and we're just talking about those 2 areas. But down the road, we're going to have an app so we can come together as a team of 3 and we can decide, hey, what did you see? What did the student that you talked to, what did he or she say? And so we'll be able to record our progress. We'll start at school and division level in monitoring that, and then we'll move, once we get kind of a critical mass in that area, comfortable with the process, then we'll move closer to more of a PLC, so like all science teachers at a high school might be a PLC, or 3rd grade team at an elementary school might be a PLC. But again, that's down the road. That's after we get folks accustomed to the process and feeling very comfortable. We want our teachers to be on fire in a good way with this. And anytime we have an indication that that's not happening, we always know because we probably were going too fast with something. We need to back up. So that's where we are right now.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. When I saw the learning walks, the definitions and the sub-bullets, and then I guess you explained it even more in more depth. So, Dr. Neely, what...
Just Neely, no
I'm sorry.
doctor.
I'm sorry. promoted you there. Apologize. So, yeah, I vote yes for that.
I do too.
She does hard. She does hard work, and no. So anyway, so what's a walk? So tell me what a walk. So when someone comes, hey Dwayne, what's a walk?
Right. Well, and we kind of laugh because we're like, you're either walking, or some schools are saying, or you're being walked on. We don't necessarily like that term. We're trying to work on what does walked on mean, but the walking means that you have a team of 3. Right now we have larger teams because we're training, but eventually you're going to have a team of, we suggest 3. Again, administrators bring teachers with you, or a team of 3 teachers. Right now we always want folks to go with someone who's had the training. They're not just kind of, it's not like a rogue walk. I think I'll go for a walk today. It's very scheduled, very purposeful. So let's say we have a team of 3. We've scheduled this ahead of time with our principal, and we go into a classroom, and it can be in my grade level, out of my grade level. It's good to see something that's totally out of for kindergarten teachers, for example, to go into 5th grade classroom, or vice versa. We even have some elementary schools and high schools and middle schools who flip-flopped, because it really takes on a different level of kind of a different lens if you walk in a classroom that is not your territory, you know. So you'll go in for 3 to 4 minutes, you kneel down by a student, and you're really asking that student, you're not looking at the teacher, you stick with that student, you start to ask that student a series of questions. And in our case right now, what we're primarily looking for is the level of relevance. Do you understand why you're doing what you're doing? And how does it relate to the world beyond school? And then the other piece is the level of cognitive demand, or the critical thinking aspect. And so, if a student has a task in front of them, for example, you kind of just point to it, you kneel down, your eye level, hey, tell me about what you're doing here. And they love to talk. I mean, you don't have to worry about pumping kids for information, because they'll tell you, And we even invite, if a teacher wants to come up next to the person who's asking a question, that's great, that's fine. I mean, what immediate feedback when you hear what your kid said, your student says when asked the question, so tell me about what you're doing. That's a great way to inform your instructional practice. Besides, they're going to ask anyway right after you leave, right? What did they ask you? And so then you come out, you reflect as a team, what did we see? Where does it fall, for example, in the level of cognitive demand? And then what starts to happen is you go back to your classroom and you say, I had a lesson similar to that, or I, hadn't thought of it that way before. And I don't know what my students would say if someone said, why are you learning this? And so again, that's probably one of the quickest changes that we've seen, is folks really, they know it's important, but sometimes we feel like in the essence of time, we have to hurry. So does that give you an idea?
No, yeah, I was trying to operationalize the concept. So
Yeah.
that helped me out to, how does it go down to the students, and then how does it spread from there?
So then down the road, what would happen once you have this baseline data? A school, for example, might look at the level of thinking, where our students fall, because we'll have graphs that will just quickly show you once you put in the app. You only have one response, so the team of 3 puts in one response, not tied to a teacher's name. And then, they might say, okay, we were mostly at knowledge and recall. Let's work to bring that up a little bit, or we would do the same thing as a division. We'll measure that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the detailed questions.
I'm sorry if you've already answered this.
That's
My brain
okay.
is still kind of reeling from the redistricting. How are you determining your schedule for these walks, where you're taking them?
Right. So right now, what we, in our last training, remember we only had 2 teachers from every school, but all of our administrators were trained as well. We've really asked folks to kind of make a plan, and for example, elementary has shared that plan with me. Secondary has shared their plan with Mr. Nichols. And we really have left that up at this point in time to the individual schools. We didn't have professional development money set aside, for example, to provide substitutes from the division level for this work in our initial stage. It's something we'll be talking about in terms of just how we use that in the upcoming year. So some schools have worked this out with teachers in they have an extended planning period. So this is part of the work of PLCs, you know, I mean, if we're looking at, this is really no different than if we said, okay, well, it is different, but you know, it's another angle. If we said, you know, everybody bring a math problem today that we can look at across our grade level, or a common assessment that we're looking at across our grade level to have that conversation. So this is professional development, but it's in real time with our students. I think another thing that happens is our students really like the fact that we care about what they're learning. You know, they want to talk about it. They, you know, our high school students, it was kind of funny, when we were getting our training, we came in masses, and I think they were like, what is going on? Plus it was like Angel and Demon Day or something at Brook Point. And so it was an interesting day to be there. Sometimes we did notice what teachers were wearing that day. But I think it's a way of bringing community. We had another parent talk about, or another principal talk about a parent walking by in the hallway, and teachers were they were reflecting on the process, and that the parent kind of did a double take because it just wasn't something that parent normally heard teachers doing, and just kind of smiled and walked on, and the principal said it was just a good feeling to know that that parent knew that we were really invested in learning about our instructional practice. Did I answer your question, or did I go off on a tangent?
More information.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you for
Thank
telling
you.
us. That sounds very exciting, and I know that we'll just keep moving forward
Yep.
in the summit and everything else. So thank you very much.
Thanks
for
again.
presenting. Sure. Next, we will get our Munis update about the employee self-service. I believe this will be Ms. O'Brien and Mr. Fulmer. So how fun.
Sure. Good evening. Brenda's going to start logging in, and I'll just, and then once she starts to log in, I'll pull up the PowerPoint presentation. We just have a few slides, and I promise we will get through it quickly. And then the real show is Brenda giving you a quick demo of the employee self-service module that we will have for all employees.
This will roll out when, Mr. Fulmer.
So this will roll out July 1 for 12-month employees mainly. We are going to try to hit up our teachers at the Teaching and Learning Summit and knock out the training for several hundred students and go ahead and let them start the process of, as you'll see, we can enter time, submit leave requests in ESS, which we will show you. When we get to that point, we'll have the teachers able to submit their time for the summit and then have that roll into their paychecks. So they will be our first time sheets that we'll enter into Munis. So I'm going to come back to that real quick. So real quick, we haven't talked to you in a while other than some board updates, but not actually in a board meeting. So a real quick, brief update, recap of where we've been and where we're headed. So phase 1, financials, and phase 2 was HR and payroll. The financials went live on July 1st of last year, the current fiscal year, and phase 2 for HR and payroll, the kickoff was the end of March, early April of 2016. So phase 1 for financials included general ledger, accounts payable, purchasing, school activity funds, the budget, which you have all been made well aware of. And like I mentioned, it went live on July 1st. There are a couple pieces of financials which are still pending, which I will get to here. So what's next? Our budget development for FY19 and FY18, we built everything in Munis that was non-comp and payroll. So it is our intention, and everything is headed in the right direction, that we will have everything online for our FY19 budget development to develop the entire budget, including compensation and benefits within Munis. In addition, there is an additional module, performance-based budgeting, which will receive the training for that in May and June of 2017, and that will be implemented for the FY 2019 budget cycle as well. So phase 2 for HR and payroll, the key dates upcoming, applicant tracking is right around the corner, which is April 3rd. So Monday, we will go live with applicant tracking. What that means is candidates for FY 2018 will apply through Munis on an applicant tracking website, very similar actually through the ESS website that you will see this evening. The current applicants that have already applied within Winocular will not need to submit an additional application within Munis. HR will still have access to Winocular through June 30th, so they can still pull applicants directly out of Winocular if needed. And that also pertains to if we have teachers that have, or any employees that have submitted transfers to another location, if they've already submitted that in Winocular, and that will still be honored. So payroll processing, we will, the processing begins in June, as in, because of our lengthy cycles and month-long cycles, we have to start, the time entry goes live effectively June 10th. So our first payroll will be August 1st. So backing that up, we have to start the processing for that August 1st payroll in June. And just worth mentioning that all of our FY 2018 payroll lines will be processed in Munis, all of our payroll cycles. So we're going to get to the main display. So I'm going to let Brenda pull it back up, and I will just explain these to you, and we can pull that slide back up when needed. So I'm going to talk while Brenda pulls it up. But what ESS is going to provide is a website, can be accessed from outside our network, any network. You do not have to be within the school division's network to access. What it will provide is access to all their personal information, their W-2, their pay stubs. There is a paycheck simulator. So after they view their pay stubs, they can make changes to their elections. Brenda will show you some of that information. As I mentioned earlier, employees will enter their timesheets through ESS if they are a exempt employee. Did I get that right? Both. It depends on the type of time. So they will request all their leave. That pertains to all employees. If they are submitting a leave request, they will log in. As you can see on the screen now, they will have access to see what time they have available, and they will select which time they want to submit, and that will get forwarded to their supervisor for approval. They can make changes to their withholdings. They can submit their expense reports, which is all currently done in an Excel document, submitted, on paper. And also when we get to our open enrollment time period in September, October, they will complete their open enrollment within employee self-service as well. So I am going to turn it over to Brenda and let her kind of demonstrate and go through the site. I will give you a heads up that this is our training module, so it's not going to be the exact look and feel. We're using our old logo still, although we will have our live website up on April 3rd for applicant tracking, and that will have our new logo. I should say April 3rd, but since it's April 1st, we will have our new logo. And just to point out, the pictures added there are real pictures from Brenda's office showing her timesheets and leave requests that payroll processed just in the last few weeks. So these are paper that we will no longer see coming through our finance office.
Yay! Yeah, these are all the papers we get for one payroll, and that does not include reports. So we are hoping that we can cut down on the amount of paper substantially. Okay, we're going to go through just a quick demo here. This is a fictitious employee. Well, actually, it's a real employee, but all the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So first of all, once we go live with open enrollment, or if somebody has a qualifying life change, they would come right here to this benefits screen to make those enrollments. It's nice for the teacher because they can see right on the screen what their certifications are and what the expiration date is for that. So that keeps them on their toes, and it will also hopefully help for a few calls and notifications that the HR department will not have to make. They'll be able to come here and do expense reports for anything that does not require documentation or approvals. It would need approvals, but like for mileage reimbursements, those kinds of things can come through here. Then we'll go to the pay and tax information, and much like employees now have to go out to the ATS website to see their pay statements, everything will be through ESS going forward. So we'll have one site where employees can take care of everything. And we trust that they will become quite familiar with this site for that purpose. So they can come here and take a look at the details of their pay statements. There will be W-2 information after we get everything loaded. Right now, we don't have any active W-2s. Another thing that's really going to be a nice thing for teachers. Yes, Ms. Healy.
That, can you go back to that last slide?
Yes.
That, it looked like the check date was 3/1, but the period was 3/1 to 3/31. I thought we paid in arrears.
We do. Let me take a...
That last one that, I don't know where it was, maybe that was it.
Yeah.
See the,
And it might just be the dates that we
check
have put in
date.
here.
Okay, so they
That-
get paid after the month? Is
Yeah,
there-
yep.
Okay. Didn't know if we made any changes.
No, and technically, this pay period would be 2/11 to 3/10 for 4/1 or 1/11. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, one thing that we are really looking forward to that employees do not have access to right now unless they call us is to know what their exemptions are, what they're claiming on their taxes. And especially now at tax time, people will call and say, my refund's pretty big, or more often they'll call and say, ooh, I owe more than I thought I would. What am I currently claiming? And they'll be able to see that. But what's even better is if they decide they want to try to change their withholdings, or if at the time of open enrollment, they decide they would like to see what different benefits options would provide to them, they will have this paycheck simulator, which I'm hoping will open here shortly. It is thinking. So what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to come in here and see all the deductions that they have. They would be able to say, what if I need to claim merit at a higher single rate and 1 on my federal taxes? And then they would be able to do the calculate button, and they would be able to see how that would impact their taxes. So right here, they can see their federal taxes, of course, would increase quite substantially if they would go to a higher single rate. They could say, what if, there are some things they can't change, but they could say, what if I would change from a Key Care premium plan or a premium plan to a core plan? What would that do to my take-home pay? So that is something that I think will be really nice because we don't have that option right now. We can send them to an external website to do that, but not right here. Another thing we're excited about is a total compensation package that they'll be able to see here. And we've got 2 months of data in here, so this is for an employee with 2 months of data. But previously, even on their pay statements, the portions that the school board is contributing towards their benefits has never been visible to the employee. So all they can see when they look at their check is just what their pay is. Here we will be able to have them go and see, this is what you are paying for your retirement benefits, but look at what look at what the school board is paying, because currently they're paying 5%, but we're putting 14.66% in. And so it's nice to be able to see that. The group life insurance, you're paying nothing for that, but the school board is paying $191. Health insurance credit, and also health insurance. You might have paid this much in those 2 months, but the school board has contributed this much. So it will be able to give them a total compensation and benefits package, which they haven't been able to do, and I think that will be very well received by employees. They also will come in here if they need to change their direct deposit accounts. They will be able to see their performance evaluations through here after those are done, update personal information. But then probably the thing that's going to save us the most time here is for them requesting time off and doing time entry. So let's say Jack Jordan needs to take a day off for a doctor's appointment for a child. So he's going to go in here and he will request time off. And let's say that appointment is on April 20. So he would just select that date from the calendar. And this is instead of filling out a triplicate leave form that would go to the supervisor to be signed. And he'll say this is going to be sick leave. He could change this to a half a day if he needed to and continue. And he would be able to say, since that's a future date, he would be able to say, child to the doctor, and he would be able to make the request to his supervisor. In addition, if, let's say, Jack Jordan does some time entry, He does some SOL tutoring after school. Rather than doing a paper timesheet, he would come here, find the date that he is going to do the SOL tutoring. He would put that started at 3 p.m. He left at 5 p.m. And he would add that line to his schedule, and that would, when the payroll person at the school would pull in the batch, it would show that he needs to be paid for 2 hours of SOL teaching, and the budget code would already be attached, okay? So that kind of summarizes it from an employee standpoint. Now I'm going to jump over, and I have this person assigned to me as an employee right now, and just so that you can see from a supervisor standpoint, a supervisor would be able to go down through all the employees who, that they're responsible for. And they'll be able to see at a quick look how much leave that person has available to them, how much leave they've taken. So for instance, they can see that this person really hasn't taken any leave all year. They'll be able to see a calendar that will tell them what months of the year this person has leave requested for. But right at the top, when they log in, they'll see that you have a time off request pending. So they can go into there, and they can see that Jack Jordan has a couple of days that they have requested. So they can approve this, or they can reject this, and if you do reject it, you need to put a comment in. So for instance, they could say it's a personal leave day that somebody's requesting 2 months in advance, but say I have staff of only 5 people and 4 other people have requested that same day, chances are I would have to reject this person's request. But I'm suggesting that most of the time they will be approved. So they would approve that, and then the individual would get an email back to them saying that your leave has been approved, or the next time they log back in, they can look at their leave requests and see if they've been approved or denied. So that's just a quick summary of the employee self-service process. As you can guess, we are really, really looking forward to having this. We're very excited about this. I'm suspecting there will be a few learning curves for everyone, but we do have a variety of communication tools available, and we'll probably start the education process for this already with the summit this summer, and we should be able to address half or a third of our teaching staff right there. We'll work with summer school people, and we'll work with people at their back-to-school meetings at their individual schools, and we'll just have demos online. We'll have all kinds of options available for them. So anyway, any questions that anyone has?
I don't have any questions, but I just have to say this. And something inside of me is telling me, don't say this because you're going to sound like a techno dweeb. But this is so cool.
Yeah. It is, and it's so
and I'm so
easy.
excited about it. And, when I first got on the board 3 years ago, this was just an idea, was just a thought. And now look how far we've come, and I'm really excited about all of it. And I just wanted to tell you too, it's been a long road the past 3 years, and you've gotten us this far, and I'm really excited about it. Thank you for sticking with us and working through all this. And we know that we kind of dumped a lot of stuff on you in the very beginning, but I just wanted to say, just from me personally, thank you for sticking with us. So.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Mr. Hearns.
Quick question. Now, this data resides within Stafford County Public Schools, correct? It
does.
So is there any benefit with this for teachers that, or any school staff that go from a division to a division? Munis is a fairly popular application. I know Prince William County uses it. And what I'm really interested in is like W-2 forms. Can they access old W-2 forms that they move? Okay.
No, because it will be residing here because it's information that is applicable only to their employment here.
Because as cool as this is,
Yeah.
it is.
It's not like VRS where it will move because that's actually statewide VRS
it's
information.
Cool, 2001-ish. I've worked for 3 or 4 different companies over the last 6 years, and most of them have used ADP, and a big national payroll processing firm. And I can go to ADP and I can find my W-2s for the last 6 years, which is very, very, very convenient. So that aspect of it for our teachers that are here within the system, it's as long as they're here and they're able to access that, it'll be great. As folks retire, will they still be able to access the system to be able to collect data information like that for themselves?
Yes. And they'll be able to go back and look at their pay history, their paycheck history, and their W-2s from years past.
I will say, Dr. Benson, when Holly was out, and I was at I think the gender review meeting, and Dr. Benson gave me here's a leave sheet I need signed. I was like, what is this? I haven't seen a leave sheet in years and years of my career. If I ever have to request leave, I've always had electronic systems. So thank goodness we're getting to that 21st century.
And I will add, it's not easy to show on the screen, but there is an app as well. So folks can log in and it's secure. They can log in and submit their leave requests from their phone. We demoed this with the teacher advisory group as well, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And one of the things was, when I'm, I get up in the morning, I'm sick, I can't come to school, I've got to, submit my, for my sub. At the same time, do I need to submit my leave slip right away? Well, no, you can come in the next day or whenever you come back to school. You can submit it then. You can still do it electronically, obviously. But if they wanted to, they could just pull it up on their phone and submit their leave request right there. Now, they will still have to request their sub through the sub calling system then.
One last technical question. You're in Internet Explorer. Is this, and I think I've asked this question before,
Yeah.
browser doesn't matter, correct, as far as
Correct.
we know? Have we grabbed a Chromebook? Since we're going to be giving teachers Chromebooks, have we grabbed a Chromebook and taken a look
So
to make sure?
Brenda just closed it, but when she was the supervisor, she was in Chrome.
Good.
So, and I will add that right now for Munis in general, the actual application, it is recommended, preferred by Munis that we use Internet Explorer, with the exception that here in a few months, they've changed their coding to make it all HTML. So there's only very few applications that don't work outside of Internet Explorer, and we've let staff and users know that, but it doesn't really hold them back at all for what these programs are. But here in a few months, once we finish that upgrade and we get to a point where we do that, it'll be across all platforms.
Thanks.
Real
Mr.
quick,
McCosker?
hey, good job. It looks like it's better than paper, right? One thing, I don't think we'll have this issue in the school division because everyone has access, and you can do this from home. No problem with the app, so that's a good news. I'll tell you that one of the big companies asked, hey, I want everyone to do a survey tomorrow on, this, that, and the other thing. And then, come to find out, we told them, well, there's 4,000 people that don't work around computers all day long. They don't sit behind a computer and just, so I was going to say, hey, I don't think we have that problem, but if you do, you need to figure that out, that if you're inputting time cards and stuff like that, folks need to have access to a computer.
We are, and we're going to look at kiosk access in areas where folks might not have access on a daily basis, but they could if they needed to. So not, in other words, they're not sitting at a desk, but we want to make sure that folks have access to be able to do that.
And we are still working through some of the time entry for the bus drivers is going to be particularly a challenge, and that is something that we still need to work through with them. And we do have an alternative method for them to get their time entered into payroll at this point until we can make a final decision how they can track their time while they're on the bus.
I mean, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Maintenance,
Yeah.
bus drivers, that.
And the maintenance staff, they all have computers, but it's the bus drivers really that we need to work further. And they do have their Tyler Technologies, their Versatrans that they're currently using for some of their mapping and that kind of thing. They're a Munis product, they're a Tyler product. So we just have to work with them on how we can get that all integrated.
Any other? I have one, but I'll wait. I guess the only thing, but this is really not for you all to answer, it's more for Dr. Benson and the team. As we move to this, we have a lot of sensitive information on there. I guess my only concern and comment will be to Dr. Benson and whoever follows on with Dr. Mira that we have the highest amount of security that we can, because I don't know, I'm still one of those people that I don't like to do any of my banking out. I just, I think we also need to train people to make sure that it's used, but also that we do the most that we can to avoid any threats. So I'll turn that to Dr. Benson.
I've noted.
Okay.
And I would just add that, this is really a multi-department effort.
Yes.
And things have just been is there real wood around? Yes, have been going really, really well. But I mean, there are a couple of principal departments that are highly impacted. Of course, finance and payroll would be there, but also HR is where we move over into bringing these other employee records together and using it for applicant tracking. And folks just have done an incredible job working together to make this a reality. Putting in a new ERP, and I've said this before, putting in a new ERP is one of the most difficult things you can do in an organization, and our folks are doing an exceptional job. So thank you.
It's a good job for everybody. So thank you both for all the work, and thank you for staying to present that last. If there are no other comments? No? All right. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. We will see you on the 11th.